pod bay doors, please, Hal.
Standing outside the home of Bobby Taylor, a young black actor who took a lead role in a stereotypical movie about street life. The NAACP has picketed this movie, but this is the first time that an actor has ever been picketed. Here to explain is the president of the Hollywood branch of the NAACP, Mr. Jamal Harris.
I hope that you're all paid-up members in the NAACP Hollywood branch. Thank you. We felt we had to put our foot down by making Bobby Taylor an example. We feel that black actors should not have to accept these stereotype roles, such as crying slaves, tar babies, jungle bunnies. And I say that as long as black actors play these roles, they'll never play the Rambos until they stop playing the Sambos.
You used to work with Robert Taylor. Could you tell me, was he always an Uncle Tom?
Yeah. Yes. Always Uncle Tom. Mama, Daddy was Tom. Uncle was a Tom.
I think that Bobby Taylor is a two-bit goat-smelling spook, obviously from the Coon Repertory Theater of America.
Eat Tom turkeys on Thanksgiving. You ain't gonna be no star, Bobby. Tell you come back that brown stuff on the tip of your nose. I know you're brown nosing over there.
We are out here sweating like niggas going to the election in Georgia because he chooses to buck his eyes, yank on his dick, and pull those raggedy skid-mark draws out of the crack of his black ass. I have nothing else to say about Bobby Taylor.
I really thought he was gonna make the right choice, but obviously he didn't. My girlfriends are laughing behind my back. They ask me, does he make those kind of faces in bed?
Do you make those faces in bed?
Sometimes.
Kill Bobby, kill him, kill Bobby, kill him, kill Bobby, kill Bobby, kill him, kill him.
The pod bay doors are open. Welcome once again. I'm your host, Jerry Dean Roberts of Armchair Cinema and OverthinkingOscars.wordpress.com. Seated here with a man that I'm confident and can honestly tell you is not a jive turkey. The critic, dare I say legend, TalkMovieMe.com, Mr. Doug Heller. How the heck are you today, sir?
Welcome to Sneaking in the Movies. My name is Speed, and this is my homeboy Tyrone, and we're movie critics and shit.
See, we watch the movie, we sneak in the movie and watch it, and then see if you should pay money and shit.
You had to know that that's where I was going to go with my quote. You had to.
This is my pick for Black History Month.
This thing was hilarious.
This is Hollywood Shuffle from Robert Townsend. Boy, God, I love this movie. Oh, man.
I was telling my wife about parts of it, and she's just like, okay, yeah, that's brilliant. I gotta watch it.
Okay, you know how they say that comedy is based on tragedy?
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing epitomizes it like this movie. Because everything you're watching is funny, but also tragic that it has of what lies underneath it. It's fascinating because the whole thing, it's Robert Townsend's response to how he was treated for more than a decade, just trying to get work in Hollywood, and how I sent you an interview with him where he was talking about just trying to get a commercial, trying to get work in a commercial, and the producers or the director was almost always 100% white, usually, and he would be like, it was a Budweiser commercial, but they wanted him to talk, that jive turkey, and that's what, hey, mama, slide on that, and all that stuff, and he's like, why do I have to talk like that? And it was based on that, and that's what black actors have had to go through. Just trying to get through a system, and it's
only marginally better now.
It's only marginally better. It's better, but not by much.
Not by a lot. No.
It's inches, but not miles.
Right. It's like a victory in World War I.
Right. Just
inches, not miles.
Inches, not miles. Yeah. But what's interesting. This movie, it comes out in 1987, and he had been a successful stand-up comic, and he made this with his own money. It was made for $100,000, and every dollar is on the screen. It's not the production value that works. It's the content that works.
Oh yeah, yeah. The script is so solid that it really doesn't matter what it looks like, and because it's a comedy about somebody struggling, the low production value makes sense aesthetically.
Right.
Like, you're not trying to do, I don't know,
This isn't
the lady. Right. This isn't Dune. This isn't. You're not trying to do like the Lady Eve on $25 and a handshake. This is like there's it actually contributes. Yeah. Right.
But
well, it's like Clerks. What, 6 years later? Kevin Smith did the same thing, and it's about struggling people. So the fact that it looks like it's through a security camera works perfectly because it's how most people like that are seen. So I actually didn't. The production value did not bother me at all.
It didn't bother me at all. It's just something you notice, especially when you know how hard it was for him to make this.
The humor in this is absolutely amazing.
Right, and it's from a black perspective. It's not, this is not a comedy told by white people about African Americans. This is actually...
Right, and it's not one of those terrible, white people be like this and black people be like this.
Right.
It's not
one of.
It's not. Yeah, it's nothing like that.
I want to give you a historical perspective because this thing came out in April of. No, this came out in early March of 1987. Okay. This is where African American actors were in 1987 when this movie came out. The biggest star in the world is Eddie Murphy, whose name features prominently in this movie. And he's about to start destroying his career with Beverly Hills Cop 2. In theaters right now, Whoopi Goldberg is in Burglar. This is the movie she followed up The Color Purple with. Playing a foul-mouthed thug, playing a foul-mouthed criminal who is accused of murder. Okay. At the same time, also Richard Pryor playing a con artist in critical condition. Meshach Taylor playing a gay stereotype in Mannequin. And just to add misery to misery, only 4 black artists have been nominated for the Academy Award.
And only 2 have won at that point.
And one of them is Morgan Freeman playing a kill pimp.
Oh, yeah.
The speed of progress seemed to be on the dead side of the road. It's dead on the side of the road. I mean, just... That's what was going on when this movie came out.
Yeah, the 80s were kind of dark.
That's what he was struggling against. And Robert Townsend had been told, they said they only make 1 black film a year. And I didn't really ever think about that till he said it, and then I went back through and I was like, yeah, they usually make one major film. They made one major film a year with black actors, and that's it. Because
pretty much.
That seemed to be all they think that that the public can handle.
It's amazing, really.
It really is. I think this was the same year that Eddie Murphy went on the Oscars, never having him. I think he was giving out the Best Picture award, and he said, when they asked me to do this, I almost said no. I told my manager, I said, no, I don't want to do this because the Oscars haven't recognized black people in movies. And his manager said, well, you can't snub the Academy. You can't say no to the Academy. So he said, I did. I said, okay, so when do I have to show up? He said, well, it's the last award of the evening. Show up late because it's the last award of the evening. But it's fascinating. Of course, done through comedy. Because I don't think anybody would pay attention to this if you tried to really show it as it was. If you really
Well,
tried to show it as a drama.
It's the same thing as Blazing Saddles. That would not have worked outside of a comedy scenario in any way, shape, or form. The same here. You have to poke fun at it. You have to make it look ridiculous because it is. But if you just present it as is, the people who need to see that it's ridiculous won't see it because it'll just be normal to them. So
and it's
the
not,
only
and it's not
obvious
a case
way to
of
go.
these actors. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's not a case of these actors not getting work. It's the quality of the work that they were getting.
Right, and when he tries to take a stand on it, they're like, "You're going to ruin it for everybody. It's work. It's the only way we can get work." It's like, but
then when he takes it,
yeah,
he takes it, the NAACP swoops in and they have a protest.
Well, well, that's a fantasy sequence with Mr. Paul Mooney as the head of the NAACP West Coast chapter, and as soon as he showed up. I mean, I was in this movie all the way, and then he showed up. I'm like, okay, well now this is a legendary status movie because Paul Mooney doesn't show up for just anybody.
He co-wrote it.
Yeah.
He
did he?
It. And so did Keenan Ivory Wayans.
Oh, he's not credited.
Yeah, they're not credited, but they.
The one that
Keenan Ivory
credited Keenan Ivory Wayans is credited with Robert Townsend.
Yeah, he's in it.
And on IMDb, Dom Herrera, the guy that plays the writer, is an uncredited writer on the screenplay, which is hilarious to me, because you could just tell when he's doing that how much he's skewering.
Yeah.
A white Hollywood writer. It has to be straight. These are my words. What are they doing to my words? They're killing my baby. You're killing his baby.
And he's sitting in the audition. And he's sitting in the audition. And what's the words? This is bullshit. It's like he's trying to figure out how to try to enunciate this jive turkey motherfucker. You know, he's trying to do all that, and the guy sitting next to him, and he's looking at the script with derision, and he's like, "This is bullshit." He's like, this is all we ever get to play: is slaves and servants.
I love how he's the one that continuously brings up how bad their situation is, and is the first one to leap at the most derogatory part because it's a part. He is the worst kind of hypocrite imaginable.
At the end, when Bobby won't do the part,
I can do it. After he's like, I would never do that, but I'm a different person.
Yeah.
I'm a different person. You get him off the set. Get him off the set. We need to find somebody who could do this. I'll do it. Man. He looks at him. He's like, you're nothing, man. Like, what the hell?
He's got integrity. And it's like, he plays Bobby Taylor. And Bobby's got integrity. And he wants to work. But the work that is offered to him is this audition for this movie called Jive Jimmy's Revenge.
Yeah.
It's a killer pimp movie with all of these stereotypes and just awful. The first line of the movie is him rehearsing this silly dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Why'd you gotta go and do that? You know I ain't begotten no weapons.
Dummy! You're my brother,
It's like,
Dummy.
wow. I mean, again, I know it's exaggerated, but not by a lot.
Not by a lot.
And the fact that this is how... I love at the end with the song when Dom Herrera comes up and he says, I learned everything I know about black people from television, don't blame me.
But it's
I
like,
learned it all from television and movies. It's not my fault.
One of the most interesting is the grandmother sitting there watching television, and she's watching this. It looks like some weird Adult Swim show called "There's a Bat in My House."
I want that show to be real so bad.
It's a white family, and they have living with them a black man who is mutated and crossbred with a bat.
Right, and it's just a guy in a costume. Like, there is
in
no
a
production value whatsoever for this show, but he's Batty Bat, and he's like this huge black celebrity, but everybody also was like, man, he's just a sellout, he's just...
Right.
He's no good. I love the grandma, Helen Martin.
Yeah.
I every time I see her, I'm just happy.
I like the fantasy at the end or in the NAACP or the NAACP thing there. Guy interviews, what is your response to your grandson? She says, I'm going to do the best thing I know how to do. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to call it Bobby Dearest. Oh, man.
Yeah.
And, it's funny. He goes into these brilliant fantasies that are written by him. These are based on his comedy act. And, even when
the first Hollywood Black Actors School.
That was based on one of his stand-up bits, in which this came from black actors who would come from other countries to America to get a job, and think, well, since I have an accent and I have experience from over there, maybe I'll get better work. And then they still end up playing pimps and prostitutes and killers and so they have to go to this black acting school and go to school to learn how to play pimps and killers.
Yeah, there's a Jive Talk 101.
Shuffling 200.
Shuffling 200.
I love their I love his parody of a slave epic. Count how take a drink every time anybody in that scene says freedom.
and all of the women want Mandingo. Even the white woman, the mistress of the house says, I don't care, I'm coming with you, and he grabs her and takes her along, and the two black women are standing there like, what are you're not gonna help us? And they have to get up and leave themselves.
God, that's funny. But it is.
And then he comes up in a tuxedo.
Yeah.
I don't know why we leave it. Do you want freedom?
We're going to the promised land. Cleveland?
Cleveland?
Well, I don't know how to. I don't know how to have any commentary on that because I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah, it's kind of wonderful. It everything the slave epic is what rolls into the first black Hollywood acting school. So he's playing this slave in a tuxedo, and then all of a sudden he's British, saying he founded the school. Yes, and it's brilliant how one thing just rolled into the next. Fantasy sequences don't usually do that very well, unless, and I know he took some cues from Monty Python for this. There has to be, because as soon as he showed up with the silver tray and the tuxedo, I'm like, man, now for something completely different.
It does. It feels. This scene, I never thought about. This scene does feel Python-esque.
Yeah, it feels like that.
One word.
Yeah, or it feels like, do you remember in The Meaning of Life when they were giving the commander the clocks in the war?
The clock, yeah.
Yeah,
and
and the cake, and they trying to set it up. That's what this scene reminded me of.
Right.
Just this ludicrousness that's happening in a life or death situation that if it really took this long to play out, they'd have been dead 6 times over.
Right. And this, honestly, if black actors wanted serious work, this is usually what they got.
Yeah.
With slave epics, mini-series like Roots.
Yeah.
Things like that. That's, it's sad that the thing that we remember most about the 70s with black actors on television are Good Times and Roots. Not exactly portraying people in the best.
Oh, and Sanford and Son.
Well, Sanford and Son, at least they had their own business.
Yeah.
Good Times. They were just. That's a questionable title.
Ooh, yeah.
You know?
That's what whenever something bad happens, my wife likes to ironically go, "Good time." She'll start singing the theme song. It's like, okay, yeah, that works.
Every time something good happens, something comes along, just completely shits all over it. It's just. But what's interesting is he keeps imagining what's going to happen or what is happening, and then the reality isn't much better.
No.
He gets a call back for an audition, and they want an Eddie Murphy type. This is the funniest scene in the movie because at the time, Eddie Murphy, of course, is the most popular actor in the country.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not going to go look for an African-American actor with talent. They're just going to try to repeat what...
Right. They want
another Eddie Murphy.
They want Eddie Murphy at 6 times less the cost.
Right. They want a discount. They want a discount.
Right.
So he goes to this audition. Oh my god!
And any one of them auditioning in those particular parts would have been a bargain basement Eddie Murphy.
Right. So
mission accomplished.
He goes to this audition, and there's like 30 guys there, all of them dressed like different iterations of Eddie Murphy. Some of them white with shoe polish on their face.
Yeah, I noticed that. I did note. Actually, no, I think what it was, it was a black guy, but he was so light-skinned that he put blackface on.
Yeah.
Because it's a reference to the last audition scene when the guy was like, when I got there, they asked why I was there, and I said I was there for the audition, and then they asked if I was even black. Because he's really light-skinned.
I wonder if it's the same guy.
It might have been. I don't think it was, but yeah, it was. I didn't notice. I didn't think to look if it was the same person, but boy, it was a callback.
That's the other interesting thing is, even if you are called up for a role that requires an African American actor, and you show up and you're black, but you're not black enough.
Right, and that's the whole. I mean, what does that even mean?
Right.
And he actually tells you what that means later on when he's doing the movie, and the producer is like, "Can you tell him to be a little bit more?" He goes, "Oh yeah. Try to be a little bit more black." And he's like, looks at him and he goes, "Stick your butt out, put your lips out, bug your eyes, like they do." Like he's impersonating an animal or something.
It reminded me of, have you ever seen the movie Topsy Turvy?
Yeah.
About Gilbert and Sullivan. When it's about Gilbert and Sullivan putting on the Mikado, and they go to a Japanese exhibition down the road, and they get a couple of the women down there and bring them back to the theater to show the actors how Japanese women walk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Japanese women walk like everybody else.
Right.
It's like, okay, walk for them, and they just walk across the stage. There's nothing to it, but it's they're expecting something different. They're expecting them to prance, and it's not.
You know, I mean, I think he was probably trying to get him to walk like geisha in period films. You know,
Right,
like the
right,
you know
right.
how they just kind of scuffle along.
Right.
But if they're not in that kind of scenario in that time frame, they don't walk like that.
They don't walk like they walk like human beings do. They don't
Right.
walk like that. And it's like, it would be like, walk like a black guy. It's like you shuffle, a lot of hands and a lot of,
And you gotta get that swagger and all of this. It's like this gross, pronounced. Like, what is this? And how could anyone have in real life ever walked like this and
Right.
like not gotten laughed off the street? Honestly,
developed osteoporosis or something, or some kind of
spina bifida or
joint problem.
Yeah.
It's this pronounced. It's this gross, pronounced idea of how specific people are, based on what you've seen from other stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of these productions, a lot of big movies like this, were made by people, again, who have only seen African Americans in movies and on television.
Right. They're not coming from a personal experience. They're coming from a learned experience.
And have such a low expectation of their audience that they think that that's the only way that they recognize African Americans is as shuffling and
Right.
shucking and jiving and all
So
of that.
they continue to promote that so that people continue to think that so that they can continue to do that.
And the movies are written by white people.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it really gets
Who
to the meat of it.
they say they know the experience. They understand. No. Come on.
Right. But
How?
when you go back and you listen to interviews about some of these shows, Sanford and Son was written mostly by black writers, which is why it came out the way that it did.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was Richard Pryor.
Mm-hmm.
And it was written because there's a great story about that. They had to bring in somebody to really get into the. They had to bring somebody in, and this person wrote a scene in which Fred and Lamont were talking about. They were at the dentist office, and Fred said, "I want a white dentist," and Lamont said, "You can't do that. That's don't you know you're turning your back on the brothers?" He said, you said, "Aren't you the guy that once told me you didn't want nothing white but milk?" And he says, "Yeah, but think about this. Most of the best dentist schools are of the white people, by the white people, and for the white people.
Mm-hmm.
White dentist, please."
Yeah.
So you can't get a white person. You can't get a white person to write that perspective.
Right. No.
It has to come. It has to come from experience. From that. It has to come from that experience.
Well, it's kind of like what was it, Damon Lindelof, when he was doing the new Watchmen series for HBO. He got the created for television by credit, and he hired like a whole big diverse writers room and said, "Tell your story." Put his hands up and he said, "Tell your story. I'm not going to interfere with you. I'm not going to put my nose in it and tell you what to do. Tell your story." And that's how we got what we got in the brilliant Watchmen series from HBO a couple years ago. It's not something that many producers are willing to do because they're afraid. Well, white people are afraid that black people are going to realize that they can take us out and then do so.
Or that when they're afraid that that people are going to see black people as successful, intelligent, caring, empathetic.
People.
In other words, human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And
Can't have that.
They don't not comfortable with that because a lot of people. I'm white. We're both white.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are still comfortable seeing that bottom line and still seeing people under that bottom line because it makes them feel more comfortable with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very small way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the people who just fold their arms and say, "Well, Black Lives Matter." That doesn't mean anything. Actually, it really does. Because if you're paying attention, it really does mean something.
Because if you can say that Black lives don't matter, then you can't say all lives matter.
Right.
Because if Black lives don't, then all lives don't. So,
right.
And proof has been quite the opposite, that, Black lives don't matter to American police and specifically, but, it's
not a new situation either.
Right, but it's a clear misunderstanding of the people who are like, all lives matter, police lives matter. It's like they think that because people are saying that black lives do matter, that somehow other lives don't.
Right.
No, it's not they matter more, it's just they matter. People are people, and by saying Black Lives Matter is not saying that white lives don't matter or Asian lives don't matter. That's not the point. Yeah, saying one thing doesn't make everything else not. But because equality is such a hard concept for a group of people who has been in the ruling class for thousands of years, since the Roman Empire, trying to get them to realize that everybody's the same is an uphill battle.
They stop at, well, we don't have slavery anymore, so what do you got to complain about?
Right. We don't have slavery and there was a black president. Everything's solved.
I have heard that before.
I have too.
I've heard that before.
I have too. And yet, if everything is better, why is lynching still not a hate crime?
Right. Right. I mean,
the Senate has actively worked against passing a bill that would state that lynching is a hate crime. Much of a crime at all.
I actually heard somebody get offended by the term, you'll love this, someone got offended by the term black-owned business.
Why?
And so, well, what does that mean? So, I don't know, white-owned
owned by black people.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Pretty much everything else.
Yeah.
It's like there was a bit by Kumail Nanjiani who said, when he was faced with racism once so blatant that it was just, it floored him. He got out of his car and somebody drove past him and says, "Hey, Kumar, or where's Harold?" Mm-hmm. And he's like, "That's just lazy. But I want to be the person that they say, hey, what are you? This guy's like, hey, what are you? Some Kumail Nanjiani? Oh my God, it is Kumail Nanjiani."
Well, we come down on this, literally, we come down on this every year. You and I, this is not the first time we've talked about this.
Oh, no.
You and I come down on this every year, especially with the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
Because I spend a lot of time really looking at Oscar history. Mm-hmm. And while I will admit that it has gotten slightly better in the last few years, it still has a long way to go because they are trying to embrace a little bit of diversity.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still always that fear that, well, we've checked off this box we don't have to do it anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's the that whole we're living in a post-racism society. No.
We gave
No,
an
we're not.
Oscar to a Chinese American woman. We never ever have to do that again.
Right.
You know.
And it's the third Oscar that's gone to a Chinese-born director. So there you go.
Well, and it also
Ang Lee.
stands it also stands to this, is that if you notice, when was the Hurt Locker? Hurt Locker was in 2009, and that was the first woman to ever win an Oscar for Best Director.
She was only the sixth one ever nominated.
Yeah, sixth one ever nominated. Which, if you expand that out, tells you not only do they not have an opportunity to be nominated, but there are so few opportunities for women to direct anyway.
Right. That has changed a lot in the last 5 years.
It has.
And it wasn't even the Hurt Locker that pitched it. It was the Me Too movement that made people realize how unequal women and men were in American society.
And the one that's nominated this year came from New Zealand. And I think she's
and there
the only
still hasn't
returning-
been a black person win Best Director, male or female.
nominated but not winning. But
Yes.
now a lot of people say
Not
well,
even ever favored.
A lot of people say, well, it's to the quality of the work. Well, that's fine, but at the same
Look
time,
at the work that's out there, and there's some really high quality stuff
Right.
that is consistently being ignored. I still don't understand, and this is not due to race. I don't know how Nick Cage didn't get nominated for Pig. Did you see Pig?
I didn't.
Holy crap. Watch that. I mean, he earned 14 Oscars just in that performance alone. It's... And they always say it's about the work. It's not about the work. It's never been about the work. That's the thing that always makes me so disheartened, is when I get excited that the Oscars actually awarded the statue to the right movie. Because so often it's either a really big popular one or something that's really super safe, or it's not about the quality of work. It's about what they think the public is going to accept.
Well, and I will say this: I'm glad that things have at least inched forward as far as progress. I mean, it's better than nothing. I'm glad it's at least inched forward. But you notice that a lot of the African Americans who have won Oscars for acting have been for very, very safe roles.
Well, I mean, there's Hattie McDaniel, Slave,
Octavia Spencer,
Spencer, Servant. Well, hell, even Sidney Poitier for Lilies of the Field was a handyman.
I mean, Jamie Foxx,
musician. He was the first one that
wasn't. Everybody loves Ray Charles.
Yeah, he was a popular entertainer, and Jamie Foxx did do a hell of a job. And then Denzel Washington for Training Day. He's the bad guy.
And Glory, playing a slave.
Yep. And Forrest Whitaker, an African despot.
Shit ass. That might have been one of the exceptions, I think, because
Idi Amin was not a typical choice for a Best Actor Oscar.
No.
We may have to give it to him on that one, because African despots is not really something that they like to show in any kind of almost favorable light, because it's black people with power.
I will have
national
to say,
power.
I give it to Halle Berry, because that was not a role that was not a safe role. Letitia in
No.
Monsters Ball was not a safe choice.
No. And she is to date
The
only black
Best
woman to win
Actress.
lead actress. Yeah, to win best lead actress.
You know what? I'm kind of glad. I remember I was pulling for. Why does her name escape me? Nominated for The Help.
Viola Davis?
Viola Davis, thank you. Her name escaped me. I'm sorry. It was not a slight. The name just. Sometimes I forget my own mother's name. She has gone back and has regretted making that film.
Oh yeah.
She has been
Publicly.
very vocal about it publicly, because that was a film. Again, that's a film white people can be comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very tiny, small corner of the beginnings, the very beginnings of the civil rights movement. But it's never really about the civil rights movement.
No.
And it's not really about anything. And you have a white girl as a perspective, the Emma Stone character. But it's not their movie.
Not even slightly.
Not even slightly. And the characters are very vague. The major events around them are very vague. It's vague enough that people can be comfortable with it. It's never challenging at all.
No, and the thing that bugs me is I love Octavia Spencer, and I'm glad she has an Oscar.
Absolutely.
But she kind of doubled down on the whole help angle of being a positive step for black people, and was an executive producer on Green Book.
Yeah.
And maintained publicly, no, this movie isn't racist. This movie isn't racist. That movie is racist from start to finish.
It's Driving Miss Daisy.
Only worse.
Only worse.
Much, much worse.
And
the fried chicken thing,
it's insulting.
Yeah, it is making you, it's making white people feel a kind of a camaraderie, or like you've never had fried chicken. It's like you're using racist assumptions to make a genuine emotional moment. No, Peter Farrelly, that doesn't work in drama. That doesn't work in comedy.
You're going to make a connection between the white man in the front seat and the black man in the back seat by having the emotional conduit of that scene be a piece of fried chicken.
Be a racist stereotype.
Right,
the only thing that would have made that scene worse if it was watermelon.
Yeah.
Or playing a banjo. I can't understand how she can support something that is so flagrantly bad. I just don't.
It's a movie that is. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Yeah. And I have a feeling that people went into this with good intentions, but never really thought about the impact of it.
I'm sure they did, but I still.
When Black Klansman was sitting right there.
I know, literally, right
Black
there,
was sitting right there,
nominated directly next to it.
Oh my God, that so frustrates me.
And again, I'm super happy Mahershala Ali has 2 Oscars and a lot of power in Hollywood right now.
Yeah.
But I wish that second Oscar had been for something that wasn't Green Book. Because if it didn't mean watching it again, I would pick it for Turkey Month.
Right.
But I don't want to have to watch it again.
It's bad.
It is.
It really
is.
It's...
And The fact that Green Book won Best Picture, 2017?
Yeah.
Is proof that Hollywood Shuffle is possibly even more prescient now than it was, or it's still as prescient as it was in 1987, because things have moved so little in a positive direction.
And when they move, it's one step forward, two steps back.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
the
every
year
time.
before was Moonlight.
Yeah. It was like, well, we can't do this. We can't have something.
Moonlight is the kind of movie. Moonlight is the kind of movie that should be, if you want to make movies about black people, it's the kind of movie because it's told from their perspective, with no white characters in sight.
And
absolutely,
shock of shocks, white people can get into it and identify with it and move with it because it's people's emotions.
Right.
Things that we all share.
About a kid who is mentally and physically abused all his life.
Mm-hmm.
And and you see this one influence on his life.
I still kind of wish Naomi Harris had won an Oscar.
Yeah, she's so good.
She is.
But it's about this person and the environment that he grows up in, and the violent environment that he grows up in. He could have been that guy in King Richard.
Yeah.
The gangster. He could have easily been that.
Absolutely.
But without that influence, it's always about those little moments. Because one thing I love about that movie is when the kid is sitting at the dinner table and he says, because he doesn't say anything, he barely says anything, he says, "What's a faggot?" And Mahershala Ali turns to him and says, "It's what they call gay people and make them feel bad about themselves."
Yeah.
And he explains it to him.
Yeah.
And it's like this moment you can feel this moment that he will carry with him the rest of his life.
I love that the best person in one of the two best people in his life is a drug dealer.
Right.
The kind of person that you would not expect to be that good with a kid.
Because they portray him as a human being.
Right.
With feelings and with emotions and, and with life experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what these films should be about. I never felt that the character that he played in Green Book had life experience. I felt that even though it was based on a real person.
Well, it was based on a real person, but the way that he was portrayed, it was almost like he grew up in a bubble.
Yeah, I was about to say, it almost like he grew up in a castle away from everybody else.
Right. And
that was not true at all. He'd been around the world.
The real person was not in any way, shape, or form apparently what was presented to us in Green Book. The man's family was very angry about that movie.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, the back and forth, because there's always a back and forth, especially when you watch Hollywood Shuffle. The back and forth of, I wanted to talk about this. There's no opportunity for you ever to get a good role in Hollywood. There's no opportunity for you to ever get a role that is not a pimp, a killer, a slave. Mm-hmm. So don't even try.
Right. Just audition for these parts because it's work, and then people get to see you on screen. It's like the
keep your eyes on the ground. Keep your eyes on the ground. Keep your expectations low, and you'll never be disappointed. He goes to work at this hot dog stand, and they keep telling him,
the bits at Winky Dinky Dog are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, the second and the third one, like when he's talking about it, when he quits, and he's like, "Whole cakes, who's got to eat too?" I love John Witherspoon.
Yeah.
But then when that fantasy sequence happens, and he's over there with the boxes trying to sell buns, and
Right.
like the hoe cakes broke him. And John Witherspoon has 3 scenes, and 2 of them are absolutely wonderful.
Right.
This.
But they're sitting there and they're telling him, it's like, if I stick with this job, in a couple of years, I can be making $2 an hour.
Right.
And but it's fascinating the way that goes back.
Yeah.
The way it just flips back around, because it's like it's never gonna change, so don't even try.
Right.
So you're looking at this, and you're never gonna be Denzel, you're never gonna be Eddie, you're never gonna be anything,
Right.
and it's never gonna work, because all you're ever gonna play is Jive Jimmy. And that was that's not far from reality.
It's not,
Because
unfortunately.
if you look at the films, if you look at these films, that's all they got to play.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan Freeman nominated that year for playing a killer pimp.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And but the progress, the pace of progress is so slow. It's not only slow, but it goes forward and then backs up on itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we were talking about. It's like it goes forward, backs up on itself. It's Moonlight and Green Book. It's like, okay, we've progressed this far. Okay, the next project we've made just completely shits on what we just did.
Yeah.
So it's the snake eating its tail.
Right. Right. Because it's Moonlight one year with Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor, Best Original or Best Adapted Screenplay.
Mm-hmm. Not Best
Black
Director.
creators, not Best Director for really no reason whatsoever. The musical was hard to stage.
Not a fan of La La Land. I'm sorry.
It was fine.
It was the thing that was made.
Yeah. I watched it once, and that was good enough for me.
Well, that was. Yeah,
But the next year they follow it with, let's tell this story about the Green Book, which was a book that was written and published by black people to help black people navigate the South. Let's make a movie that call it Green Book, but have 3 white writers, a white director, all white producers except for like one woman, Octavia Spencer.
And no reason Mahershala Ali should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor, but that's a different issue.
Nor should he have won. But it's exactly that. It's look at all the progress with Moonlight, a black director getting an Oscar for writing the screenplay, and the movie winning Best Picture, and okay, well then here's Green Book.
Yeah.
White, trying to tell in some way, shape, or form a black story. And
it's like you remember what I told you when I went to see Moonlight, and I walked out and there was an elderly white couple that were complaining to the manager. We didn't know what this movie was going to be, and that movie was awful, and but I'm like, okay, you just sat through the whole thing, but yet you're complaining about it. It's because a lot of people are not comfortable with a story like Moonlight, but they're more comfortable with a story like Green Book.
Mm-hmm.
Because it compartmentalizes the characters into a space that they're more comfortable with.
Yeah, and
Moonlight doesn't do that.
No, and Green Book would have been a fine Best Picture winner in 1954. It would have been progressive in 1954.
Maybe 34, but okay.
But you know what I mean, the topic and subject matter. If they'd have made a movie like that in the 50s or 60s, it would have been hailed as like a revolutionary kind of a think piece because it was confronting Jim Crowism. But in 2017, it's anarchic. It's just it's outdated by 40 years, 50 years at that point.
When you have a story that takes place in the 60s, and you have a white man driving a black man into the South to perform music, I can pause the movie and already tell you exactly what's going to happen from
Oh yeah, there are no surprises in this movie
There are
whatsoever.
no surprises at all. I mean, he's going to get treated like shit.
And yet it
There's
won
gonna be
Best
a violent
Original
encounter.
Screenplay.
What?
It won Best Original Screenplay.
Oh, Jesus.
Peter Farrelly has a goddamn writing Oscar. If I mean, yeah, sure, Adam McKay has one too, but just the fact that a Farrelly brother has an Oscar that wasn't like the humanitarian award was just mind-boggling to me. A competitive Oscar. Peter O'Toole never even won a competitive Oscar. Alfred Hitchcock never won a competitive Oscar. One of the goddamn Farrelly brothers did? Come on!
Cary Grant never won an Oscar.
Cary Grant.
I don't think Cary Grant was never nominated for an Oscar.
I think he was. Maybe
never
not.
won an Oscar. Gene Kelly didn't win an Oscar.
Honorary ones, like special ones, but not any in competition. Hell, Stanley Kubrick never won a competitive Oscar.
Sidney Poitier did.
Once.
And it didn't happen again for another 50 years.
Mm-hmm. And
it just realized the other day that if you're listening to this a few years from now, forgive us. Sidney Poitier just died a few weeks ago, and with him, all of the Best Actor winners from the 1960s are gone. The latest that we have is 1971. That's Gene Hackman, who, as of this recording, is still living.
Yes. And that's was 72?
Yeah, that was from 72.
Or 71, sorry. French Connection.
Yeah, they're all gone. All in the 1960s. Lee Marvin, Rod Steiger. Yeah, they're all gone. John Wayne.
Yeah.
But you and I are just on the sidelines watching this progress, I say in quotes, happen. And again, it's frustrating to watch everything go forward and 2 steps back. Robert Townsend's film never sees anything forward.
No.
Maybe because this was made in 1987. It never sees anything forward. Because the movie ends on a sour note.
Oh yeah, it ends with him. Yeah, it ends with him shooting commercials for the post office.
Right.
Getting ridiculous respect. I mean, you got to give him that. But yeah, it ends up being a pitch for a 9-to-5 job. And that's not a good way to end if you're trying to make people hopeful. And Hollywood Shuffle was not trying to make people hopeful. Hollywood Shuffle was trying to make people understand the difficulty of life as an actor of color in Hollywood in the 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s,
90s.
Yeah.
The overarching thread of this movie is very, very funny. But the underlying theme is just sad and pathetic because it's about a guy who just will never get any kind of respect unless he gets, I don't want to call Eddie Murphy lucky, but unless he can be, in that kind of light, and it's not gonna happen again.
Right.
And he's not gonna get there, and it's just he's gonna go below the line and gonna stay below the line.
And Robert Townsend never really rose very high after, even with this. He made his attempt at a black Superman.
He did get a job after this, or because of this. He showed this movie to Eddie Murphy. And Eddie Murphy gave him a job right there in the room, right there in the screening room, and he directed Raw.
Oh yeah.
I don't know exactly what goes into directing a concert film like that, but
a lot of hard work. If you watch, I think there's a documentary on the making of The Last Waltz.
Mm.
That if you watch that, or the commentary on the DVD that I have or something like that, is just basically that because of the technology at the time, they had like 16 people on 16 cameras, and then 3 or 4 other people that could just load or swap out the motor because they were burning motors out because they were running them for a lot longer than they should have been running the cameras. And yeah, that kind of level of something. I mean, by the 80s, probably would have been a little easier because he probably would have been shooting on video.
But in The Last Waltz, you're shooting the entire band on stage. In Raw, it's just Eddie Murphy.
Right.
So it looks like, I don't know because I could be wrong. It looks like most of the work goes in the editing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know this, and I don't want to call the work easy, but it doesn't. I don't know what goes into directing an actor in a comedy special like that, or a comedy film.
Right. I want to say it's probably very, very nerve-wracking. I remember when, what was it, Robin Williams Live on Broadway in '02. At the end of it, he yells out, "We did it, Marty!" He like yells at the director, "We did it," because they weren't sure that was going to be able to happen, because even though the director had followed him on his tour, he's like, there's still stuff that's going to happen that I don't know is going to happen.
Right.
And how do I shoot that? How do I anticipate Robin Williams? You know.
You don't.
Right. So I imagine it was probably nerve-wracking, but I bet if they shot it live, they probably had the blocking out for the cameras, and my other guess is that they probably shot more than one concert and cut it together so that they would have all top-notch material.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
They do that with like Unplugged and a lot of the stuff that you see concerts on television. They just wear the same clothes 2 or 3 nights in a row, and then they just splice everything together to make it like as great as it can be.
Well, I remember watching. I actually did watch the Elvis' '68 comeback special. That had to be a nightmare to shoot.
Oh God!
Because it's basically Elvis unplugged.
Fortunately, it wasn't live.
Yeah.
If that had been a live show, there would have been 6 directors kill themselves during the production.
Right.
But there's outtakes of it where they're like resetting a scene and retaking a song. It was a live audience, but it was a movie shoot. It wasn't let's shoot this concert straight and then cut the angles in. That was they had that on their side. for Elvis.
And that was in 1968.
Yeah.
So what do we got next week?
Clockwork Orange, I guess.
Clockwork Orange, I guess. Why not?
Why not?
Because we're flying through Kubrick. Have we hit every Kubrick film yet?
Not even remotely, no.
Dad, are we done with Kubrick yet?
No, we still have. You're talking about Full Metal Jacket next month, I know. Right. So there's those 2, but we would still have to do Fear and Desire, Killer's Kiss, The Killing, Lolita, and Barry Lyndon.
Might have to bunch some of these. I don't want to do Barry Lyndon.
I know you don't,
Barry Lyndon.
and that's why I haven't
God.
made you yet. But I adore Barry Lyndon, and Fear and Desire and Killer's Kiss are not worth the time. I hate to say it like that. They're just not. I think the only other ones that we will probably hit, because you're so adamant against Barry Lyndon, will probably be The Killing. I don't know if you want to do Lolita at some point or not.
Killer's Kiss was so... It's so appreciate it. Well, it should be. It's a terrible film, but it was added as an extra to the DVD of The Killing at one point.
Right, it's the special feature on the Criterion Collection Blu-ray of The Killing. That's how inconsequential it is.
Thank you for finding my words for me. I was trying to figure out how to word that. But...
Yeah, it is an inconsequential movie. It is basically those first two were just for him to learn what to do. And that, because then by his third feature, The Killing, he just started cranking out nothing but top-notch work.
Yeah.
Maybe not masterpieces every time, but never a dull picture.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
after
except
that,
for you.
after Clockwork Orange, I have a theme going on in the month of March. First, we're going to talk about a remarkable documentary called Elvis Presley, The Searcher. I'm in part 2 of that. It's really, really good. It's a good movie. Not just a documentary, it's a really good movie. Mm-hmm. And then Full Metal Jacket. So first the sound, and then the fury. Yeah. Wow. Full Metal Jacket's probably the angriest film Kubrick ever made.
Clockwork Orange is pretty angry.
I don't know. Yeah, but Full Metal Jacket... it came. I remember that movie came under a lot of critical scorn because it came out just a couple of months after Platoon won the Oscar for Best Picture. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of comparing, and a lot of people saying, "Well, Platoon was better."
Well, guess which one I've seen more.
Yeah, same here.
Not
I like both
Platoon.
of them. They're both great films.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I've seen Platoon maybe twice.
Yeah.
And I've seen Full Metal Jacket at least a dozen times. There's just more to it.
Full Metal Jacket is a much angrier film.
It's a deeper film.
And it's a much deeper film.
Oliver Stone was trying to convey what happened. Stanley Kubrick is
there.
trying to... Right. Stanley Kubrick is trying to convey everybody at home's feelings about it, which is a very different thing.
An anti-war twist on it, even though Truffaut said you can't actually have an anti-war film.
Yeah, no, because it's still a war film.
Right. Anyway, that's all I got.
My second pick for March is up in the air. I might try to do something themed like dystopic futures or something like that, but I haven't settled on a second one yet. But for me, I have April scheduled out. That's going to be April in Paris. Paris in the 30s, baby.
Yay.
Two French movies from the 30s.
We already talked about a French film this year, so it's a good theme.
Yeah, well, that's true. That about wraps it up here for us. We thank you very much for joining us. You can find all of our episodes at thepodbaydoorspodcast.wordpress.com. Listen to us on iTunes and YouTube. Hit the like, subscribe, notification buttons there. Find us on Twitter at pod_bay. Copy and paste that over at Patreon. That's our handle there too. Make things easy. We thank you very much for listening, and the pod bay doors are now closed.
The mission has been completed.
To play these slave parts. And now you can too, at Hollywood's first black acting school. It teaches you everything. Learn Jive Talk 101.
You motherfucking jive turkey motherfucker.
All right, that's good. You work. All right, you try it.
You fucking mothers.
No, man, no, that's wrong. Watch me, man. Just be cool. Jive turkey motherfucker.
Good work. That's only the beginning. You too can learn to walk black.
No rhythm. Observe.
Yes. You too can be a black street hood. But this class is for dark-skinned blacks only. Light-skinned or yellow blacks don't make good crooks. Here's a student in our dance class.
I didn't steal that TV. It just happened to be under my coat. I don't know nothing, policewoman, Kojak, Ironside. Yeah, I'm a gang leader. I'm in the Warlords, the Vice Lords, the Onion Head. Let's talk to a graduate. This is Ricky Taylor. Ricky graduated from my class 3 years ago. Ricky, can you tell us what you've been doing since you've graduated?
Well, Robert, I've played 9 crooks, 4 gang leaders, 2 dope dealers. I played a rapist twice.
Whoa.
That was fun. Currently, I'm filming a prison movie. I play this tough con that tries to fuck this new inmate.
That sounds wonderful. I'm so happy for you. Need I say any more? It's Hollywood's first black acting school. It teaches you everything.
Classes are enrolling now. Learn to play TV pimps, movie muggers, street punks. Courses include Jive Talk 101, Shuffling 200, Epic Slaves 400. Dial 1-800-555-COON.
Black acting school.
Don't try to be cool. Call Hollywood's first black acting school.